Michelle, you made $300,000. I saw in the article from wrapping gifts, I think the year 2023. How did you do that?
In 2015, my husband passed away. I was a stay-at-home mom. I homeschooled my children. So I was driving home from that interview and I thought to myself, is there ever a way to start a business where I could work when I wanted and could versus have to? I was praying and I'm looking outside and I'm thinking, my van's sitting there. I don't use it all the time. What could I do with that van? I wonder if I could wrap gifts. Like, is that even a thing? So I got a call in from state manager for the Kardashians. I called my sons. They're like, Mom, you got to take that job.
Michelle, you made $300,000. I saw in the article from wrapping gifts, I think the year 2023. How did you do that?
Yes. Well, it started out with a business idea. So it's not an overnight success. It took a lot of work. And I started out in that gift basket space, luxury gift baskets. I think if you've read some of my story, then this all, was just leading up to what I do right now, which is having the #1 mobile gift wrapping business in the nation. I have about 50 to 60 gift wrappers that work for Nifty. And it also gives opportunity for women to start their own business and become a wrapper as well. So it just exponentially grew after a lot of hard work.
Tell me the moment of when the idea hit you. Tell us that story.
In 2015, my husband passed away in 2014. So some people who've read the story know that I had a big transition in my life where I was a stay-at-home mom. I homeschooled my children. Grandchildren were coming along. My husband was a pastor. I was a pastor's wife, running a nonprofit feeding the working poor. So those who were working, I live in California, so the cost of living here is incredibly high. I got blindsided when he got sick in 2012. Also, I was never about making money. I was giving a lot. Like, I was also a counselor, very well known in the field I was in. But everything I did was pro bono. So everything I did was giving things away. And then when Eric passed away, now I was faced with, the church paid me for a year. And now I was faced with, I have to create an income. So I have a very strong faith, as I shared with you earlier. I pray every day, read my Bible every day. And I was like, Lord, I don't know what to do. One of the volunteers within the organization that I have, the nonprofit, said, Michelle, you have such a great work ethic. We have somebody who's interested in hiring you. So I am well educated. I have 2 master's degrees, but I hadn't been in the workforce for 13, 14 years. So everything was different. You had social media now, things I just didn't pay attention to before. I only had a Facebook because I just monitored my children. I went on that interview and I was listening to this gentleman tell me, you're going to work 60 hours a week. And in order to do this role, that's part of the requirement. We're a 5-star organization and all that makes perfect sense. And I thought that would fulfill his vision and not the vision that Eric and I had for our children, because now everyone's grieving still and they're young. I have 2 left at home to homeschool to launch. All the rest had already been launched and married, some married. And so I had a really hard time with that. So I was driving home from that interview and I thought to myself, is there ever a way to start a business where I could work when I wanted and could versus have to? And if that's the case, would other women like that? Because I know people, they're raising their family or they're older, maybe they're 60 and they're retired or whatever, they want to make extra money. And then I thought, I like the Uber business model. So this is before the idea happened, where everyone worked remote. And I just loved that idea. And so I came home and one of my sons, who actually helped me launch the brand, said, Mom, I told them, my daughter-in-law, my sister, my family, that I had this thought. And he said, you had a gift basket business when you were young. So why don't you start that again? And I said, how does anybody feel about that? And they all said they liked the idea. And I said, how about all of us learning how to work remote? So I know Google Workspace, there's a way to figure that out. This is back then. This is 9 years ago, to where you could work in your home. I can work in my home. This person can work in their home. And then we can come together for projects. And they love that idea. So we worked really hard to make that happen. And it was not easy. People laughed at me, said it wouldn't work because, it's a little basket business. Okay, well, whatever. I just kept moving forward. It started in one room. And then we learned to master the skills of working remote. So it kept doubling in my business during that time. And then moved it fully into my garage and out of the room. And then I kept making the garage space bigger. So then in 2018, November, maybe it was November, I was praying and I'm looking outside and I'm thinking, my van's sitting there. I don't use it all the time. I use it for deliveries or pickup or whatever I'm doing with the van, but most of the time it's sitting there. So what could I do with that van? I make gifts. This is how that time came. I wonder if I could wrap gifts. Like, is that even a thing? Does anybody even wrap gifts for business? I did some research. I put up a web page that day. Really, there was no one doing it. No one would drive around and wrap people's gifts. There were maybe 2 people up in the Northeast that did that on a small scale. And I put up that page. Within about 3 or 4 days, I got called from a current client that bought baskets from me. And he said, Michelle, I hate wrapping gifts. Can you come wrap my gifts? I said, sure. So I piled all my wrapping paper, all my supplies, and I had never done this before. I mean, I have a very large family, so I did a lot of wrapping for them, but not on a business scale. So went to his house. I was so excited. I wrapped every single gift. They looked amazing. I stood back and I think in my mind, I don't know whose gift belongs where. I forgot to label the gifts. I had to unwrap every single gift and rewrap them because I didn't label them. That was a disaster. But at the same time, I learned a skill. And then I just kept honing the skill. And that's December of 2018. Then in 2019, and I had a baby Instagram. One lesson I would say is just launch. If you have an idea, it doesn't matter. The world looks so cool out there, but the truth is, it's just all your little baby steps add up. So I posted pictures on my Instagram. I got a call from Too Faced Cosmetics in March of that year, 2019. And then she said, Michelle, we'd love for you to do a design for us. And I loved that. So I created a design. They loved it. That was our first large wrap, which was 400 gifts, and fulfillment, where we basically did a gift fulfillment inventory and wrapped and shipped. During that same time, I went back to work full time because I had to create income for myself. And I had skilled myself as a finance coach, grief coach, and life coach. I'd been a counselor. I had the degrees in counseling, but I didn't want to go back into counseling. I went to work full time in the financial space to work with other widows, created a class for widows, taught at the local college for widows, and still was building Nifty at this time. So I got a call in probably August of 2019 from somebody called Stephanie. She was the estate manager for the Kardashians. I'm like, I don't know who the Kardashians are, but she said, Michelle, we're interested in you coming out and doing a design for us. I called my sons. I'm like, boys, I've got this call from this gal. And they're like, Mom, she's the number 2 influencer under her and Kanye under Trump. So you got to take that job. So I piled my team, at a team of about 6 at that time, we all drove to Calabasas to do this project. And she hated everything I was doing. This is when I transitioned from grandmother to business owner. Okay. I'd been a pastor's wife, executive director, grandmother, mom. Those were my roles. And this time I walk outside. I'm like, Lord, if you brought me here, I am not going home without a sale. So I'm like, I have to have an idea. So I walked back in and I said, does anyone have any fabric? And one of the gals said, I have some fabric. So I did what's called a Shogi wrap. And it's actually on the front page of my website. She loved that. So that launched me into the celebrity space. And then we just kept getting referrals. And plus, I'm out doing the hard work every week of networking and growing my business and creating new and unusual ways to market what I had. And then I would get calls from New York. I'd get calls from Texas. I'd get calls from Florida. Can you do these gift wraps for us? And so I learned to train remotely. And we'd already been working remote. During COVID hit 2020, we were all prepared. Everyone else is scattering and trying to figure out what to do. And I'm like, girls, we got it. So we knew what we were doing. We just mastered that. And that's how it started. And so I just continue to grow from there.
It's a great story. It sounds like when I was listening to the story, I was thinking about from a business perspective, like the gap. What was the gap in the market? And it sounded like the gap in the market was the mobile service that took it to another level. Is that correct?
Yep. And not too many people would have a business of gift wrapping.
Mm-hmm.
And so the rise of crime and the rise of the convenience economy with a new opportunity, gift wrapping. So it's not a dog service, it's not a hair service, it's gift wrapping. So not too many people think that that would be such a big thing, but so many people love it.
Yeah, when I was looking at the story, and it's always amazing when you see people doing like, I won't say the word simple comes to mind. You think it's simple because you see it all the time.
Mhm.
And you see when I read the article, you see the amount of revenue that you've created. In my mind, I was like, how are you able to create that amount of income off a service that feels like anyone can do? But it just it goes to show you. You ever heard of the book Blue Ocean Strategy?
What is it called?
Blue Ocean Strategy.
I have.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so it's as you know, it's all about trying to get to a blue ocean, all about trying to create value innovation. And that aspect of
Mhm.
adding in the mobile service, that was the piece of value innovation, going to them versus them coming to you. So that was a great shift. You mentioned how you went from grandmother to like business owner, all these different identities that you took on. I think what a lot of people get into trouble at is that they identify as one thing. And then when they're trying to jump into a new thing, all this self-doubt comes in, all this self-talk comes in. So walk us through that. How did you manage your self-talk? Because I'm sure it arose up because you're going and you're creating a new identity, a new belief system. How did you manage that?
There's a lot that's taught on it. You know, there are a lot of people who speak to self-talk, but the reality is you have to tell yourself and you have to do the things. So I think what ends up happening is people have a good conversation about themselves or whatever it is that they're having to walk through. Because I have faced a lot of doubt, a lot of fear, a lot of uncertainty, a lot of unknowns. But because of my faith too, I could speak to myself in terms of the words, you know, and there's a young guy, his name is Charlie. I can't remember what his last name is. He actually did a really good bringing your self talk down to the actionable steps on a daily basis. So I can have all this great talk. Okay, you're awesome. You're good. You can accomplish this, you know, speak my dream or whatever. But it comes down to what am I doing today? And that needs to be my self talk. I am going to write a blog post. Like I have a piece of paper here that I fill out weekly. What are my important things in order to meet my goals for the week? And they're the action steps because I think sometimes we can do a lot of talking in our minds and telling ourselves things. But the truth is, did I do the actions today? Did I do what it took today? Did I write a blog post? I have 3 businesses right now. Did I write a blog post? Did I send out the emails? What did I do? So I think self-talk has a couple of different pieces to it. And there's a really, really good book by Ryan Holiday called The Obstacle is the Way. And it is a phenomenal book. Whatever your problems are that you're facing, that's there on purpose to help you with your self-talk. Like you're going to overcome this. You know, it's kind of hard to answer that question because you have to do it on a daily basis. And you have to see that you're doing the action steps behind the self-talk. Because I think I also heard this statement that optimism is almost a culture or a cult, the cult of optimism, because people have a tendency to be very optimistic, and me included, where the reality is it's your reality and the work you're putting in and trusting for me that God's going to provide and help me because I ask for wisdom, so I get that. But problems arise when I ask for wisdom.
Yeah, it's
So I can solve them.
yeah, it's all about the work. As you mentioned, there's several books. Atomic Habit is another one. Doing small daily
Great book.
activities every single day kind of reinforces that belief of who you are. Like you mentioned, it all comes back down to the actions. Everything stems back down to the actions. The more you do something, the more it's going to reinforce who you feel you are. Right. A lot of psychologists talk about that as well. So let's transition into one of my favorite talking topics, business strategy. Right. Love this idea of strategy, like what you did. And so let's talk about pricing models. Like, how did you develop a pricing model? As you mentioned, just start. Sounds like you had a term I like is messy action. The more you start to do stuff, things just seem to start working out. You start getting all this data. You can transition and understand certain stuff. How did the pricing model work? How did you develop that? And talk a little bit. Tell me the story around that.
That was hard to do because I came out of an environment where I didn't even understand what profit or strategy or tasks meant, literally. At age 34, I was diagnosed with something called dyslexic dysgraphia. I was in law school, flunked out of law school, and I had a hard time with charts and graphs and understanding how everything fits together. But I was focused on growing and learning despite that. So I didn't know I had those problems until I was older. So I just worked really hard to overcome whatever my problem was. I memorized a lot of things. So strategy was difficult. I had to really, really work on a business plan to understand my strategy. Not everybody has to do that. Some people don't think in those terms. Well, I did. Well, how am I going to grow this business? How am I going to price out and make a profit? What does it mean to make a profit? What is a cost of goods? What are all the factors that go into your finance side? Like for me, getting down to practical skills, if your box is too tall, you're going to pay more in shipping. So those costs are incredibly high. I had a very rough year in 2022 where I didn't understand a lot of this. And so I was doing well, but I didn't know why I was doing well. And so I had to go back. I took like a $22,000 loss in 2022, and I had to go back and find out why. So I really began to learn about KPIs for my business, and it's not super easy. There's not a standard formula for KPIs. People can say that word, but what does it really mean? How many clients do I really have? What's my profit margin on my jobs? Because we have 6 pillars of the business. We have the luxury gift baskets and gift baskets themselves. We have the branded merchandise. We try to do as much eco-friendly American made for here. I have the gift fulfillment side where like we had the Van Cleef and Arpels, a really beautiful job where they ship, 5,000 items from Italy to us. We inventory, we repackage, we wrap, and then we ship direct to client and direct to stores. And then we have the mobile gift wrapping where we go on site and mobile wrap, or things are shipped to us and we gift wrap. So all those things, I had to go through each one. What made this profitable? What made this not profitable? So I had to go back and do that. So I would say, what is your profit, including all your costs? And it's interesting because the bigger you get, I mean, we're still considered a small business, but the bigger you get, the profit margin goes down. So in 2022, after this loss, I went to my team and I said, okay, we have to have a profit mindset for every single thing we do. Every system, every hour, every box, every ribbon. Does it take me longer to ship a gift or hand deliver a gift? Like I had to go and do a deep dive on every cost. And then in 2023, we grew 187%. But it was really going back to cut out things that we didn't need and everyone having the profit mindset. And I have a phenomenal team. Like there's no way I could sit here with you today without them. Shred all the little pieces that matter.
So are you doing this yourself? Like you went through that, or did you hire a consultant? How did you say you didn't understand KPIs and all this stuff you missed. So tell us around that. You just figured it out? Did you watch YouTube videos? How were you able to do that?
YouTube videos and books. I did not hire a consultant. I didn't have the financial resource to do that. People were hiring me, but I had to go in and do the work. So I learned the hard way, like, okay, so a strategy is this. Like I had to map it out in my mind. And I have 3 incredible sons. So sometimes I'd go to them and I'd ask them a question, like a specific question. Okay, what do you think is going to be the best strategy if I do this? Like I had to train myself. So I write notes. I literally have hundreds of books. I've gotten rid of a lot, but I read them. I actually read them and I reread them like Atomic Habits. I've read that book multiple times and I stay on a topic that's really important to me. Alex Hormozy, you've got Sabri Subri, it's amazing. And you've got these men who share a lot of information and I watch and rewatch and re-listen, which helps me memorize so that I understand. And then I just go to God. I'm like, okay, what do I need to do right here? How do I make this happen right here? And then that's where self-talk comes in, where I would say, I am very resourceful. I can figure this out.
No, it makes perfect sense. You're taking information, and unlike, most, you're taking action on that information. And by taking the action on that information, you kind of reinforce, okay, the learnings of what you read. Then at that moment, you're kind of off to the races. So, yeah, it's kind of read, write. So I just learned this phrase because I was taking a speed reading course to get through a lot of information. He said, read, write, and recite. So when you read something, you want to write it and then recite it so it can stick in your brain a lot further because you're going to lose a lot of what you read anyway. No one has a perfect comprehension. So that's great. Let's customer acquisition. What did that look like? What are you still doing now? What is your customer acquisition strategy look like?
Well, I actually just created with a gentleman, a Figma layout. Like I literally have sticky notes on a board, and those sticky notes were my map, you know? So an order comes in, customer acquisition happens a few ways. I have my website, and then I get referred a lot. Most of our business comes through referrals, which is good because we do a good job. And so then with that, they go on a list. We send out emails. We do not. There's a great statement. And if you haven't heard of Dan Kennedy, phenomenal. Russell Brunson, amazing. And he says, be a welcome guest, not an annoying pest. And so I always keep that in mind to make sure I do that. I have a system. So we send out thank you cards. We send out postcards. We send out gifts, thank you gifts. And we call on the phone. We're just your old style, old fashioned kind of person. But, I do cold calling a lot. Like if I feel like, okay, this is going to be a good client, I want to say most of my cold calling is not successful. It's really mostly making sure I stay on top of the clients I have and my list grows. So, that's pretty much how it works. And then I have a system for that. What are the steps? If they don't buy, where do they go? That's where the lead nurturing comes in. And just now am I going to start Google Ads? Just now.
I saw you're doing, I was looking at your YouTube. Are you getting any hits from your YouTube content?
Yes, and that is on the coaching side. So throughout the years of building the gift basket and gift wrapping business, then I would get calls from different universities and people asking me how I did this. I wasn't quite ready to share, but my plan about 3.5 years ago was to franchise Nifty. It still is. We have a trademark name. We have everything kind of set up. It's just very high in California and the regulations are very high. So I created courses and classes so people can learn. And now I have people buying licenses so they can start their own. So that's my second business. So then they go there from YouTube. Yes, it is actually growing. And it's exciting to watch because I just follow what people say, just keep posting. Christmas is harder for us because we're so busy. But the goal is post every week, and that's what I do. So they don't have to be long videos. It can be short, teach one thing, and then move off and do something different.
So I'm curious too about the scalability. You mentioned about kind of what you're doing now. This business model reminds me of a network marketing business type model that I can see as far as scalability. Have you looked into that business model? Because what you're describing as far as creating content, and I looked at your website, kind of here's a kit, you can go home and create your own. Reminds me so much of that business model and how you could actually scale it up and have your independent contractors yet, but you're at the top, helping and supporting them downline. Is that what you're looking at to scale, and how have you scaled it since to this point so far?
No, we are not a network marketing group. For us, I think that's a great business model for some people to start, but that's not how we are. We're a full corporation. And then the licensing side is so it's kind of like this. It's the person who wants to do what I'm doing and carry the Nifty name, they have to be fully licensed by Nifty, by me. So kind of like John's business and then a Nifty licensee. So they can, by the time they're done and they get a license, then they can charge the fees that we charge. So I train them through all of that. So as far as it's their own business, so they can take the classes and have their own business. And or they can go one step further, which is the licensing, and then have a full Nifty licensed business. The marketing is similar to network marketing. They're not the corporate Nifty, but they are certified Nifty gift wrappers. So if somebody hires them, they know they're going to have a quality gift wrapper. That's how it works. So it's like it's it's just like the Uber business model where they get to have there might be a small fee that they have in order for the to book the jobs, but outside of that, they can start their own gift wrapping business. Yeah. But in order to work with me directly or the Nifty name, they have to be certified and take the course. And it's incredibly profitable if they do it for one person, and then they can hire a second person. I train them how to do that. So because this is something called a new opportunity, which Russell Brunson describes so well, it is, this is one of those businesses that can just blow up, with, you can be in Ohio in a small little tiny town and do very well. People are afraid to charge money, but they can also go to bigger cities, if they wanted to. So anyway, that's how it's being done to scale it. And I have gift wrappers all over the nation that are corporate gift wrappers.
Yeah, it's just amazing. Every time I think about it, it's like the competitive edge in his business is the mobility. Is that
Hmm.
the
Yep.
the aspect of
Yes.
that? And you said you got that idea through Uber. I know you mentioned the story about looking at the van. Was that because you thought of Uber, you were trying to connect that all along, and that just came to you?
No, no, because I'd already been doing the Uber business model came in my mind after I left the interview in 2015. And then in 2018 is when I thought, if my van is sitting there, I could actually get in my van and drive around town. That's kind of how it was. And I could wrap people's gifts. I make them, could I wrap them? And that's where the mobile idea came from. And then the more I did research, I'm like, okay, there's like doggy groomers, there's, you know, you know, people were they don't I don't even know if they were doing Instacart yet. I don't think they were, but Uber was the one I thought, "This is so cool." And that's where I just did it. Like, I put the webpage up that day, and then I've spent a fortune trying to master this, which is where it's so nice if somebody can buy a course and learn how to do it, because it is a good business, and it's a good business for a variety of reasons. Number one, it's beautiful. I get to bring joy to the person who's hiring me, and they get to give joy to the person who's receiving the gift. I always wrap according to the recipient, not even the purchaser. Who's getting this gift?
Let's talk about biggest lessons, right? There's going to be a lot of people watch this, and me and self, I'm learning a lot now. This is why I do actually do this. This is the way I get my business education as well. Biggest lessons as current day. What have you learned, and what can you give to someone that's looking? We understand, don't be a perfectionist, just start. But more so, I'm a big fan of strategic things. Like, what strategic things should they do when they start? They have an idea. Say they have an idea, but I need to do something strategically. What's the first one, two, three steps they should do?
I think the first things you should do, which I would have probably done differently, find somebody who's doing something that might already have a business model like what you're desiring. But the reality is we don't always know that. Like, I've had to pivot a few times. I didn't know I was going to do mobile wrapping. Pay attention to your costs. Be very, very diligent to know the state of your flocks. Like, where's your money? Pay attention to the costs. Pay attention to, if I make this mistake, what's my long-term side effect of that? Just pay attention to that. There's a lot of free information out there. Be a learner. I know people say that, but it's so true. Like, I have learned so much through watching videos, listening to people's failures. Like, there's the top 10 rules to success. I forget the gentleman who does that, but he had Tory Burch on there. And she, yes, yes, Evan Carmichael. So Tory Burch, in her 6th year of business, she said that she almost lost everything because she transitioned her computer system in the month of December. And when she made that, when she made that decision, she lost all of her current orders, which were like 6,000 client orders. So that was really difficult for her. But when I listened to that, it gave me hope because it made me feel like, okay, she's around still. And although she might have had some struggles, she's walked through the struggle. So I like hearing about other people's struggles and their challenges. Yeah, the big one for me in 2022, I told you that about that year was um, we had a 35% shipping cost um, fee uh, that went up and also cost of goods. And I did not factor that in and raise my prices. I kept my prices the same. So there was a lot of reasons why I lost money. So know why you're doing well and know why you're not doing well, and take a good look at what you're doing. There are some gift basket gals out there that do baskets, but sometimes we want the yes and the likes, and we're unwilling for someone to say, you might want to make a change on that gift. You might want to listen to people who could come in and maybe critique you. Like, and with my business with Nifty, we have a team, and our team thing is this: second set of eyes is a blessing. So for someone to come in and say, change this, remove that, or shift these colors over to the left side or whatever, I mean, that's a blessing. And sometimes I think we can take it as a criticism, and the truth is it's just how to perfect your business. So perfect your business, perfect your craft, strengthen yourself on your craft, and do it scared. You know, do it scared. Go out and shake if you have to. I was shaking when I would go to network meetings, just nervous as all get out. And I said, Michelle, just do it. Just stand up. I was just so afraid. I came from this very comfortable life in terms of I knew my environment, my children were all around, my husband, my church, and all that, out into this world of business that I knew nothing about. And I just thought, I just have to just do it. So
Even you have to shade. That's the yeah. It's literally the only way you're going to reinforce that belief. There's no other way. I mean, you can read books, you can watch all YouTube stuff, and unless you actually put it in the actions to reinforce those beliefs, it's not going to get there. And that's one thing I'm realizing now through reading psychology books. You have to do the actions. You have to do the actions every single day, even if you're scared. I heard someone tell me, a speaker tell me, if you're supposed to cold call, you'd be better off making cold calls and crying after than not cold calling at all, right? Because you're doing the actions. I did want to ask you one more, like two more questions. One is the most overlooked strategy, I guess, for your business that you didn't see before that maybe now it's really paying dividends for you now.
the value of my list,
Hmm. And what do you mean by that?
I,
Just people you already knew, or stuff that people that you've come to know and you just added over time, or just an email list, stuff like that?
yeah, no, managing your list and growing your list, it was very difficult to understand the value of a CRM or a program where I would capture everyone's names.
Mm.
And I just didn't understand the value of that. So I would say strategy one would be know your list. Like, you're growing a business, you're going to have customers, and you can't grow a business without a customer and a sale, whatever, a service or product. We do both. I do both. So, we have a tendency to make our website pretty, our logo pretty, and all these things. But the truth is, the work to grow your list is vitally important. And understand you have a lead list and you have a client list. A client list is where somebody has purchased from you before, and now can become a repeat client. And a lead is somebody you've talked to who has an interest, who might have an interest in your business, and then you nurture them along. That's why it's called nurturing. And the value of that list is huge. I just didn't understand the value of the list.
And I've been in network marketing. That's why I said network marketing. One of the first things they have you do is write a list of people you know, and then also over time, those that made a lot of income. In that, what's I always say, keep adding to your list. It's kind of the same principle, even in non-network marketing businesses. Like you said, you have YouTube. All these tools are just marketing tools to drive in people, right? And then you want to send them through a funnel. and you want to nurture that list over time and keep adding to that list and making sure those individuals get touched. Right. So it's a perfect model. So where can people find you? If anyone's watching this, they want to find you. What social media sites can we find that?
That's great. Yes. Nifty Package Co is my gift side and gift wrapping side. MichelleMHensley.com is the coaching and training there. And then, of course, YouTube and Instagram, Nifty, and I have a personal Instagram. You can follow both of those. And on the Nifty one, we have all kinds of cool things that we do. A lot of cool wraps that we've done and continue to do. And as a matter of fact, we have an incredible one right now that I can't say, but very cool opportunity. And yeah, there's a book, they can buy it on Amazon, Mastering the Art of Mobile Gift Wrapping. Type my name in, they can find that. And I'm definitely very free. Send me an email, they can give me a call, and I will definitely answer.